Meet Steve. It's trash night, he's in his socks, he's got one flip-flop on, and he is not emotionally prepared for what's about to happen. There's a raccoon by his trash cans, which, fine, normal Tuesday. Except this raccoon is wobbling around in broad daylight like it just left last call. Steve shoos it away with his foot, and it nips him. Barely breaks the skin. He goes, it's basically a scratch, puts on a band-aid, and goes back inside to finish his lasagna. Here's the thing about that decision. With rabies, the moment that actually determines whether you live or die might happen weeks before you ever feel sick. And it's usually a moment just like Steve's, where absolutely nothing about it feels like an emergency. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through what rabies does inside your body, which animal run-ins should make you consider the risk of rabies, and what doctors can do to prevent you from getting sick, but only if you act during a very specific window. And later on, I'll get into the part that genuinely surprises most people. The timing of rabies treatment works almost backwards compared to every other infection we treat. It's one of the strangest cases in emergency medicine, and I think once you hear it, you won't forget it. Quick note before we dive in, I'm a board-certified emergency medicine physician, and this channel is all about translating what I see every day in the ER into plain English. No jargon, just the stuff you actually need to know. If that sounds like something you'd find helpful, please like this video and subscribe. Okay. So why does a raccoon bite that looks like nothing turn into one of the most serious calls in emergency medicine? Let's get into it. Rabies is a virus that attacks the nervous system, and it's almost always transmitted through the saliva of an infected mammal, most commonly through a bite. Here's the part that makes it unusual. Most infections spread through your bloodstream, like a package getting tossed onto a highway and delivered fast. Rabies doesn't really do that. It sets up shop in the tissue right around the bite, and then it essentially climbs onto your nervous system like it's boarding a very slow train, traveling along the nerves, heading toward the spinal cord and eventually the brain. That slow train detail isn't just trivia. It's the entire reason this disease is survivable if you catch it early and almost universally fatal if you don't. We'll come back to that. Because rabies travels slowly, there's usually an incubation period between the exposure and any actual symptoms. And depending on the situation, that gap can stretch for weeks, sometimes even months. During the entire time, you can look and feel completely 100% normal. You go to work, you binge your show, you forget it even happened. Back to Steve. A few weeks pass and he doesn't even remember getting bitten. That's not because he's careless. Some bites, especially from bats, can be small enough that people never register them as anything more than an itch or a weird pinprick. I don't remember getting bitten doesn't mean I wasn't exposed. And that gap between reality and how a situation feels is exactly where rabies gets dangerous. Now, not every animal encounter is a 5-alarm fire. In the US, the exposures that matter most tend to involve bats, raccoons, skunks, foxes, or basically any wild mammal acting strangely, wobbling, unusually aggressive, or unusually friendly towards humans, which sounds nice until you remember that wild animals aren't supposed to want to hang out with you. Worldwide, dogs are usually still the leading source of human rabies, particularly in places where canine vaccination isn't widespread. So if you're traveling, that context matters too. And to be clear, getting bitten by your neighbor's very vaccinated golden retriever is not the same emergency as this. Risk depends on the species involved, where the exposure happened, whether the animal can be observed or tested, and exactly how the contact occurred. When symptoms do start, they're sneaky, because they look like almost any other viral illness. Fever, headache, fatigue, that generalized I feel off fog. Sometimes there's a strange clue though. Pain, tingling, or itching right at the old bite site, almost like the area is trying to send up a flare. Most people miss it completely, because by this point, they've long forgotten there was ever a bite to begin with. And this is exactly where rabies turns from being concerning into something much more serious, because once the disease reaches its next stage, everything changes. Remember that twist I mentioned earlier? Here it is. Rabies is one of the strangest emergencies we treat because we have a treatment that is remarkably effective, close to 100% effective, at preventing this disease after exposure. But it only works during the incubation period, before the virus reaches the brain. Once symptoms of full-blown rabies begin, that same treatment does essentially nothing. You could feel perfectly healthy while a fatal disease's window to be stopped is already ticking down in the background. That's the part that makes this different from almost anything else you'll ever hear about in medicine. If rabies isn't caught in time, once it reaches the brain, things escalate quickly. This can include agitation or anxiety, confusion, difficulty swallowing, excess saliva production, hallucinations, seizures, and progressive paralysis. This is genuinely one of the most devastating diseases in medicine, and it's part of why we take even small, easy-to-dismiss exposures seriously. Let's talk about the hydrophobia myth. Hydrophobia makes it sound like someone develops a psychological fear of water, but that's not quite it. What's actually happening is that attempts to swallow can trigger painful spasms in the throat and swallowing muscles. So the person isn't scared of water in some abstract sense. Their body is bracing for pain the moment swallowing becomes a possibility, which understandably makes them want to avoid it entirely. It's less fear and more, my throat is staging a protest. So here's the practical part. You should seek prompt medical evaluation if you're bitten or scratched by a potentially rabid mammal, if you've had any contact with a bat where a bite or scratch might have happened, even if you're not sure, if saliva from a potentially rabid animal gets onto broken skin, your eyes, nose, or mouth, or if you were exposed somewhere with a higher risk of rabies while traveling. The key message doctors want you to walk away with is this: do not wait for symptoms. By the time symptoms show up, the door that was open to help you has already started closing. If you think you've had an exposure, wash the wound thoroughly with soap and water right away. That alone measurably reduces risk. Then get evaluated. And please resist the very human urge to handle the animal yourself. Don't kill it or dispose of it in a way that prevents animal control from testing or observing it. Animal control and public health officials can actually help determine whether the animal needs to be tested or just watched, which changes what happens next for you. So what actually happens when Steve finally decides to get seen in the emergency department? Let's suppose he was seen right after the exposure. We take a detailed history of what happened, clean and evaluate the wound, and try to nail down the animal species and the circumstances, because that context changes our decision-making. We often coordinate with public health, and then we determine whether rabies post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP, is indicated. For someone who hasn't been vaccinated before, that generally means a series of rabies vaccine doses given over a period of 2 weeks, plus rabies immune globulin, given right at the start with as much as possible infiltrated directly into the wound itself. And I want to be really clear about one thing. This is preventative treatment given after an exposure. It is not treatment for symptomatic rabies once the disease has already taken hold. That distinction is everything. Back to Steve. Instead of shrugging it off with a Band-Aid and a story for his coworkers, he actually calls and gets it checked out. He gets evaluated before he ever develops a single symptom. That's the advantage we have with rabies, acting during the silent period before the body sounds the alarm on its own. Before you go, here are the 4 things I want you to remember. 1. Rabies attacks the nervous system, traveling slowly along the nerves rather than spreading fast through the blood. 2. You can feel completely normal for weeks after an exposure. Feeling fine doesn't mean you're in the clear. 3. Certain bites, and especially bad exposures you're not fully sure about, deserve prompt medical evaluation. even without an obvious wound. And 4, the time to prevent rabies is before symptoms develop. Once they start, treatment options change dramatically. Quick question for the comments. Before this video, did you know it's possible to be exposed to a bat without ever realizing you were bitten? Let me know below. If this video helped you understand something you didn't before, drop a comment below. I genuinely read them. And if you want more plain English emergency medicine content, don't forget to like and subscribe. As always, stay prepared, not scared.